Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Hawes of the Happy Show of Comics Limited here in Evansville, Indiana, and I'm making another video that's talking about CGC. Now, let me explain what this one's about. A previous video, I talked about CGC and about saying some books to be graded, and my conflict there because there's a dichotomy in that I am a purist about comic books. I believe they should be read for their enjoyment and for the intrinsic value of the art and the stories and all that sort of thing. And that the value that comes from them is because people love the artwork or the stories or the characters so much that they're willing to pay, to get them, pay more of a premium sorts to get the back issues once those are off market. So I understand and even appreciate the collector value that comes to a book. My problem with slabbing a book is it makes it just about the financial value, and there's no actual. People are basically they're more concerned about it because of the grade and such, and it's really takes away from enjoying the art form for itself, and it becomes more of just enjoying it as a commodity to be for money to be made off of it. Again, as a seller or a reseller of comics, and I have been so for a few decades now. I do have that kind of warring side of me where I need to make the money, because that's how I earn my living. But I also have these principles and these ethics and these thoughts on the other hand. Not to say that if you are collecting comics for investment purposes that you're an evil, rotten person or anything. That's not the case. I don't think it's good, to be honest, for any kind of hobby if the only value in it is the value that can be made from it, financially speaking. Because if there isn't a deep inherent love for the product to begin with, or for the art that is in the product, then it's almost pointless, really, and it won't hold its value if there ain't something inherent in that product that keeps people uh, coming back to it as a fan. But that's something I discussed last video when I talked about CGC, and I'm not going to get away from that. And I did send some stuff to be great, as I mentioned in that video, for the first time in several years. I've done it with this one batch, but it's not something I regularly do because I do have this going at odds kind of point of view at things. It's like, how much do I do? And it's sensible for me as a reseller, as a dealer, somebody who makes my living this way. How much it makes sense for me to do this, but how do I keep my self on my path of wanting to promote comics for the entertainment value and and the artistic values and stuff that's involved. Anyway, that all said, I like I mentioned that last video that I talked about CGC. I am getting some stuff graded, and I will do an unboxing video on that. But that will probably, I don't think I'll be grading anything anytime soon necessarily, because I'm not gonna be stupid about it, because again, I got to think in terms of also what I can do to keep this machine going, so to speak, of me making a living out of this. So if I got like some beautiful, gorgeous, super sought after issue, it's almost doing myself a disservice not to to do something that can maximize. Like, yeah, but again, there's that balance. I gotta have that balance of doing still being true to the comics, also because as promoting them as for their own intrinsic value as opposed to financial. I'm kind of belaboring the point here, but 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 I did participate on the CGC website and have for years without all these years never submitted a book, but I've been a member on there. And the reason why I'm a member on the website in general is to keep my ear to the the or my finger on the pulse, however you want to phrase it, finger on the pulse of what's going on sometimes in the market, because that is something I need to do as a reseller. And also, it does. There's a lot of people who discuss the history of things on those boards and such. Well, I had a photograph that I took that was shared on a Facebook group from a person, a mutual friend of mine had with this other person had a group on Facebook, has a group, I guess, for comic books. And one of the other people I know from that group that we're some mutual friends with, he posted a photo that was shared with him from his friend, who was in the family that owned a Read More bookstore here in Evansville. Now, Read More in Evansville had a long history, and this was a family that owned it in the 40s. And years later, I knew a different family that owned it at that point, at least the north side one that I went to. But they're in the 40s. This family that owned it, they took a picture of a display, magazine and comic book display, and had this photo. I don't know that they were intentionally just why the photo was taken at 45. Comic books weren't thought of as too much more than just of cheap disposable entertainment to the masses at that point. So it's kind of interesting that somebody would have any kind of foresight to take a picture. But I think they were more or less just taking a picture of the display in general of this the entire display, which bulk was comic books, but there was also horoscope magazines, Pope detective, Pope novels and stuff like that, and glamour and entertainment magazines towards the end. But it was predominantly in the shot was the comic books. Or maybe they were a comic book fan in the 40s and thought to take the picture, at the Read More bookstore. Or maybe they were promoting the comic books for something. I don't know what the reason was for the picture being taken, but there was this 1945 picture that was shared of this display, and on that Facebook group, and I thought, well, this is a really cool photo, and so I saved the photo, just for my own records or whatever. I keep a lot of photos and stuff that's to do with comic books and such, and so I took this, and then I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to kind of piece it together and not really colorize it, because colorizing being just simply recoloring the photo or whatever, using some app to do it with algorithm. No, I want to be more specific and accurate with it, and the only way to truly do that is if I was to colorize it, to hand color each little spot based off of what I know the covers will look like. But instead of going quite that extreme, I don't know, I guess it could be arguable how extreme it is, because my method I did use may not be any simpler. I took, I identified what books could be identified, or I was able to identify, and found images off of the internet, like Google search and such, that would match those covers. So, like, say if it was Action Comics number 50, I'm just throwing the number out there. That's not necessarily one of the books that was in the display, but if there was Action Comics 50, then I would go ahead and I would find an Action Comics 50 online. In this black and white photograph, it's devoid of color, obviously. But I would find the color version of the whole cover, even if only part of it was seen in this image, this photograph. And I take that full color image I found online, and then I would edit and distort it in such a way, or warp the image, the one image onto the other image, and superimpose it over the place of the Action Comics 50s in that display. In that the original photo. So in other words, I was more or less overlapping the one image with the other, so it gives the illusion of that comic in that photo being in color. And I tried to match the positioning and everything. Like I say, it's quite a bit of work. It may in the long run been more work than just simply hunting down the colors and recoloring. I don't know, but I thought it was a fun little project, and I did have some help from people off a couple of different message boards, including the CGC board, which is one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. Who just the different users there who would help me put these images or find these images, and then when they help me ID or find the images, I do all that assembling and editing on my end on the Photoshop, by using Photoshop as the means to do that, work in layers and all that fun stuff. It's not complete. It's almost impossible probably to really complete this thing, because first off, you got to be able to identify every little title. Some there's honestly like just a little hair of a book showing, or just the tip of a corner or whatever. Surprisingly, I myself and others have been able to identify books that when I first started this, I wouldn't have dreamed I could identify off a little scrap. But you get the proper website, like there's some websites devoted to what was on the newsstand as far as comics back in 1945. They go through the years. I think it's Mike'sAmazingWorld.com or something. You can Google search it. I'm pretty sure Mike's Amazing World's the right part. I don't know if it's the web address is exactly .com. But if you do that, or you just type in Mike's Amazing Comics Newsstand, that's one of the primary sources, though by no means the only one. There's also ones devoted to pulp novels and stuff like that. And I was able to find, these things, and even some entertainment magazines and romance magazines through these kinds of searches. Me and the other people were, and we're able to identify a lot. But it's probably never going to be able to identify every periodical shown, and even harder, even if you ID them. Like there's about 3 or so maybe that I've ID'd that I wasn't able to find a cover to put on there, even though I know the magazine it is, track down the actual cover. So a full color version anyway. So I got it as complete as I could, which I would say percentage wise, well over 50%, maybe 70% or so of the magazines are close to it. A good chunk of the magazines and comics and stuff, I was able to locate an image online to make a color version of it. And so I've done that, and then I posted it, and I also, just for fun, did take a colorization app that's available for free online, and I colorized the original black and white photo completely with this app, and just to see what it would look like. And it looks neat on first glance, because especially if you don't realize what the true colors are. But of course, with certain elements of the photo being shaded a certain way and all, they don't stand out quite as much as what I've done using my process. But while those are colorized versions of the actual comics that's in the thing, whereas mine is taking an image of another comic and superimposing in that spot of the same issue, but obviously it's from another image search, so it's not that actual book in that place. Don't know if it's all making sense to you, or if it's complicated to explain. But anyway, I got, like I said, the majority of that done, is basically the point. Oh, and the colorization. Let's get off track. The colorization of this photo, a lot of the colors are off the mark because the algorithm can only figure out so much on its own. That's why I would still want to go through my process and complete that as much as I can. But I got up to a certain point, and then I decided, just for added fun, since I don't know when or if I'll ever be able to complete the rest of that photo during my process, I overlapped the comics that I did find and edited over the colorized version of the black and white photo, if you're following this. So the majority of it is my editing work, and then the rest of it is the colorized version using the app of the remainder of the photo was colorized with that app of the black and white photo. Okay, if you were able to follow all that, or even come close. So I put this out there on those message boards. I was, charting the progress as I went along with updated posts on the John Byrne board and on the CGC message boards. And on the CGC board this week, something kind of unexpected happened. I got contacted through email, through my website actually, by Matt Nilsson, who is the president of CGC. And apparently they're going to do a grading guide that's coming out, and he liked the photo and wanted to use it. Specifically, he wanted to use my colorized photo, because I did ask him, I did explain to him that the black and white photo, he was wondering about my ownership of it. I said, the black and white photo is not mine. It's owned by the family of the Read More, the guy who shared it with the other guy I knew, who posted in the Facebook group. So I said I could try to get a hold of that guy, try to, see if I can get you in touch with him. I said, but he said he wanted the colorized version. And I said, well, the colorized version is mine. It is using his photo as a basis, but in a sense, it's a transformative work because I do this editing. It's not the original photo. It's not even just that photo colorized as I did with that app. It was mine. As I explained to you, I did a whole process of editing to make this photo. So it's a work unto itself. Not trying to be pretentious, but truthfully, it is its own work. So I said, if you want that, I'll be happy to, let you use it. But I did say that that one's mine. But if you want the black and white one, and like I said, he decided he wanted the color one. But we also both, I figured this as much. He would need to get the permission of the other guy still, because the basis is still that photo from 1945 from the Reedmore family. And so I was able to finally contact the guy from the Reedmore, explain to him. Fortunately, none of us, well, me and the guy from Reedmore aren't getting rich off of this. I don't know what will happen with CGC, but it's a grading guide. And I know my one photo being in there isn't going to, bring in millions of dollars or nothing. So I'm not getting rich off of this, but I did go ahead and grant them the rights to do this. And when I last talked to the guy from Reedmore, I assume that he is granting the rights. He seemed happy to do so. So if that's the case, I'll have a photo that will be with my editing job that's going to be published in the grading guide for CGC's publication there. So that should be interesting. But that's also interesting because that there is a grading guide, because I that's probably news unto itself, and hopefully I won't get in any kind of trouble for bringing it up. But because I wasn't told it was secretive, or that I shouldn't say anything, I didn't have any non-disclosure agreement that I had to sign about it, so I assume it's okay to bring this up. But and if I don't, they don't use a photo because I brought it up, I shouldn't have, whatever. I wish they had told me otherwise. But otherwise, if there's no issues there, then apparently they're going to have a grading guide so those people who wonder how they go about the grading and stuff, you'll finally get a little peek into how CGC deals with that, which is something me personally and a lot of other people have wondered about for years, because CGC in the past hasn't been the most transparent on exactly how they grade. A lot of people tend to think they follow along the lines of Overstreet's grading guide, because Overstreet, having been the standard and the leader as far as price guides for decades, they're the predominant one, and most people tend to fall towards their grading system and figure that it's a universal grading system, when technically it is their grading system. So a lot of them are patterned after that and really close to it, but are not technically really that same system. This, I presume, is going to, being a grading guide, is going to give people more of insight and a true look and more transparency on how they do their grading, how they consider the defects to affect the grade of a book. So there's that's kind of interesting. It's kind of funny to me, the timing, because all these years I've never sent in a book since somewhere in the earlier 2000s, and that was the only time I did one time then, and then now I've sent in a batch, and just coincidentally, and I do believe it's just coincidentally, but it's just kind of funny, the timing, that the Matt Nilsson happens to look on the boards and see this picture I did, and decides he wants to use that photo for this grading guide. And so that was kind of flattering and cool, and it'll be nice to see that published. And so anyway, that's what I want to share, was that little bit of information there. And then also, I'm still expecting to get my books soon. Well, not soon. The ones I sent off recently. I know, according to what I understand, they could take months to get to me. But again, whenever I get those other books I did send off to get graded, I'll do an unboxing video and let you see what I sent off and how it turned out. And now that I've got this other deal happening, perhaps, it looks like it's going to go through with the grading guide, I'll let you know about that and what happens with that. Whether they go through with publishing my photo in there, and when I get a copy of it, I'll be glad to show it here on the video and elsewhere. And I think that's about it. So this video actually took a little longer than I meant, because I didn't expect I was going to go as in depth as I did. But as you've seen from watching me in other videos, I can't shut up. So anyway, I will for now. And I'll talk to you in the next video, perhaps. Yay! Gonna shut this off now.